got a pick six. Pike tricked up and then ends the world with the big one-hand. Here's the pitch. Back up the middle, that's going to be trouble. That one hit the post and then headed in.
Shock, excitement, you feel all the emotions. But an incredible night. Super excited to get to work and see what the future holds.
They got lucky again, Bobby. They came this close to winning the whole darn thing again. But even still, they beat the odds to finish with the second overall pick. Bobby Mendez, Hector Ledesma, we welcome you to the Sports Update presented by Martinez and Associates. Going to talk all things Spurs, a lot to get to with the lottery. And hey, who better than Bill Land to stop by and talk with us about all things Spurs? Bill doing absolutely great. It's going to be a pleasure to catch up with him and talk about current Spurs, former Spurs, the future, all that good stuff. Packed show today, Bobby, as we, in terms of, a lot to talk about during what's normally maybe not a busy time of the sports year, but the Spurs are making sure that it is kind of busy around here.
Yeah, over the last couple of years, we've been fortunate in the lottery standpoint to put ourselves in position to make that part of it relevant. So that's a good conversation for us to have, for us to be there at that point again. And hopefully, Hector, going forward, we don't have to be waiting on a lottery pick for us to get things back on track.
Also going to talk Cowboys. Speaking of busy, it's a busy time for them. Baseball, the Astros and the Rangers getting together for the first time this season. San Antonio FC, busy stretch for them as well. So lots to get over these next several segments. But we start with those San Antonio Spurs. And, the lottery, the Spurs were hoping to win it yet again. David Robinson, a number one overall pick. They won in 87. Tim Duncan, number one overall pick. They won the lottery in 97. A couple years ago, Victor Wembanyama, the prize. This year, another generational talent, maybe not a big man, but Cooper Flagg, the man who was at stake. And the Spurs jumped into the top four. They weren't supposed to. They had the 8th worst record in the league, but as the lottery order was being announced, it was evident that into the top four were the Hornets, the 76ers, the Spurs, and the Mavericks. It came down, as many of you saw, to the Spurs and the Mavericks. So the Spurs didn't quite get the top overall pick, but they did come away with the 2nd overall selection and the 14th, courtesy of the Atlanta Hawks. That pick, by the way, stayed where it should have according to the odds. The Hawks were the team in the lottery with the best record, and so they fall right at 14 in line with where they would have picked had there not been a lottery whatsoever. And so let the discussion begin. The Spurs have the 2nd pick. They have the 14th pick. They have a war chest of first-round picks from now through 2031. They have a bunch of young assets. They're looking to build around Victor Wembanyama. So what is the best possible option with all that at stake?
First of all, Spurs, these positioning themselves to be in this position in itself is a big accomplishment for them for thinking this far into the future. But now, right, these picks so important for what's about to happen, especially who's available right now. So the Spurs really kind of controlling what assets they can move around. We are not, I say we, right, but the Spurs are not in a position where the other teams are dictating. This time the Spurs holding all the cards. We have plenty of young talent. And so my opinion for our first pick, number 2, I say pick best available right now because, yes, that would put us heavy guard. However, those are, again, loading up on assets and then being able to maybe move some pieces around just with that kind of information.
Okay, now when you and I talked pre-show, you thought making a run at Giannis. What do you think there? What are your thoughts there?
I think taking a shot at Giannis gives the Spurs the best opportunity to be successful early rather than having to, we're not in a position where we don't have to be in a position to prolong this any longer, right? He's already expressed interest in leaving Milwaukee. He's already expressed interest in going to a state that doesn't have an income tax. So we are in position to lure him this way. And I feel like if we get that opportunity to get him here, then more pieces will follow in between that time. And I think use that opportunity there to continue to build around him and Wembanyama.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not sure where I fall on this just yet, because I do think there is an element of you've got to strike while the iron's hot. And whether we like it or not, you have to factor in Victor Wembanyama's rookie contract. We have him for 2 more years, and then a 5th year depending on the option. And obviously, you know what the Spurs are going to do on their side with the option. But that being said, he has to see a vision. He has to see not only a vision, but he also has to see results, I would think, to a certain extent. Now, going from 22 wins to 34 wins in his first 2 years is a good start. And especially when you include what the Spurs did in bringing in a Chris Paul, adding a Harrison Barnes, drafting a Stephon Castle. Good moves. How much more patient can you be? And if nothing else, by adding Giannis, you send a message to Vic saying, we're all in. We are all in with you right now. The question becomes, at what price?
Right, and I feel that that's a price that Spurs should be willing to pay. Again, we don't want to. Giannis, proven champion, proven athlete, and I can't even imagine what it would look like to have Wembanyama and Giannis on the same court. Both of them having a presence down low. Both of them having a high and a low. There's just so many opportunities for those two, and I think what better way to really show that you're 100% ready to win right now than to really at least make the effort, make the attempt to try to get him here.
Now, no matter what happens with Giannis, the man who's got to coach whoever is on the floor when the season starts, had thoughts immediately following the Spurs draft. Spurs draft lottery night, I should say.
We were excited about having 2 lottery picks in this draft. It's a deep draft. There's a lot of good players, a lot of dynamic, versatile, different type of players. And so I think our group is always going to do the due diligence and look at just 2 good young pieces to add to the group. And now obviously at 2, you get a little bit more pick the litter, and we'll be excited to get going on this.
So, you're Mitch Johnson. Let's say that the team ends up with the 2nd overall pick. Anyone that you have in mind in terms of who the Spurs should draft there at 2?
Again, I want to go back to the best available, and I think Hopper is the best available. Of course, he is a strong point guard. I know we're going to be heavy on that side, but having someone that has an entire basketball life, right? His father, Ron Harper, playing professional basketball as well. I mean, a very smart pick for the Spurs, especially where he's at scouting-wise.
So when you look at Dylan, ready, NBA ready, tons of skills, he might actually end up being the best player, not just the best guard, but the best player with respect to Cooper Flagg in this draft. Like, he's got that kind of potential. So reason to be excited. He goes about 6'5" and a half, right around there. So when you extend up, you can say he's 6'6". A lot of tools. And so Dylan Harper appears to be the consensus pick at number 2, should they go there. So I think if they stay at that spot, there's some thought about his teammate at Rutgers, Ace Bailey. Do you go get him? Bigger size, also a pure talent. But I think Dylan Harper, far and away the guy that you take if you do stay at that number 2 spot.
Again, I feel it's all about positioning, and I feel if you have the best player available, and if you choose to decide to make some kind of move, then you have something to offer, if that. So it's all about having something to offer to get to that ultimate goal, and whether it's getting Giannis or whether it's just, putting this team together for a very long run.
So the Spurs also have the 14th pick, as mentioned. And if we're thinking Harper at number 2, my initial thought is a young man who was just in San Antonio for the Final Four, one of the 3 Duke stars who's expected to go in the lottery, along with Con Kneppel and Flagg, is Kaman Malawak. He's big. He's raw, though, Bobby. And I'm wondering if you take a chance on him because, number 1, and maybe chance is the wrong word, you figure he's going to project out well. He's going to develop well. But he's got something that's so vital in today's game. He's a big athletic who plays really well around the rim on both ends of the court. Those guys don't grow on trees.
No, and he's coming from a very good school. He's coming from Duke, where he has the discipline, and we know that that product that comes from there is already proven to be good. So that's not a bad pick. What I'd like to see at 14, of course, either if we do pick best available at that time, if he's still available, that's a good choice. But who knows, maybe just a pick in itself is another piece to move around.
Not to mention size is something that the Spurs are sorely lacking right now behind. After Victor, there's nobody really there. And who knows? Maluak might not even be there at 14. Like, I've seen some projections that have him going as high as 7. And then I have other ones, I see other ones that have him maybe falling out of the lottery altogether. Not by much, but getting into the 15, 16, maybe even 17 range. So who knows? It's all a crapshoot. We'll see what happens. What we do know is we're just getting started right here on the Sports Update. Later, Bill Land joining us in studio. Bill, going to talk all things Spurs, not only the current team and what the future may hold, but Bill also going to talk about memories and, of course, covering Greg Popovich. That's a conversation with Bill. It's coming up on the way. And then before that, right after the commercial break, Cowboys talk. Been a busy stretch for them as well, from rookie camp to free agent signing to the schedule release. We're back after this right here on the Sports Update.
Ready! Set! Go!
It's a bad idea to run a foot race against these guys, just like it's a bad idea to go up against the billion-dollar auto insurance industry all alone.
Hire Martinez and Associates. With us, it's personal.
Sports Update brought to you by Martinez and Associates. Busy stretch for the Cowboys. Bobby, Cowboys, really, when you look at what they've got going on, they had the draft about a month ago. They had those rookies in a couple of weeks ago. Picked up George Pickens via trade, a receiver that's really going to help solidify that number 2 spot next to CD Lamb. And, oh, by the way, as the schedule's about to come out, they found out that they're going to open the NFL schedule on that opening Thursday night against the world champion Philadelphia Eagles. Folks might say, why do the Cowboys get that game? It's the Cowboys. That's why they get that opening Thursday night. Of course, all of our coverage right here on the Sports Update is brought to you by Martinez and Associates. For us, it's personal is your slogan, and it is. Give them a call. 337-1111. Again, 337-1111. Their website, martinezlaw.com. Fantastic people, fantastic attorneys, the whole mix at Martinez and Associates. If in need, go by and give them a call or pay them a visit. Cowboys, Bobby, you look at all the things that they've got going on right now. Anything to you stick out about what this last couple of weeks has brought them?
Yeah, so getting back on track, football season's right underway, and of course, what better team to play to start the season as the schedules come out than the Philadelphia Eagles. Get everybody fired up, get everybody ready to go. And again, just like it is every season, the way I feel for the Dallas Cowboys, I'll say it's been about 15, maybe 20 years since I've separated my allegiancy with the Dallas Cowboys, because it's a lot of effort, to want to say, hey, let's hear the Cowboys are coming in, and then they look so good for such a good time, and then so many times fall short. And it's a lot of times it just moves in the front office that just impede them, right, from doing that. And I will say, as far as me personally, I was a huge Tony Romo fan. I wasn't a Cowboys fan, but I was a huge Tony Romo fan, and it just has not since then. It's just been every year.
This is our year.
Yeah.
And then it's not.
And that's what I was going to say. My favorite thing to tell my buddies is, hey, man, the best thing about the Cowboys, if it's not this year, it's next year for sure.
It's next year for sure.
So, again, like looking forward to this season to see what comes up. But as long as, I can see the effort and the want to win from not only the players, but from from the administration up there, but I just sit back and observe at this point because why sit there and cry, or why sit there and get excited because the next day it's probably not going to be as happy. So it's just a whirlwind of emotions if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan.
They've got workouts coming up, the OTAs, the mini camp, and then ultimately they'll start training camp in late July. I did think the George Pickens pickup was pretty good. Folks talking about getting that second receiver or some help for CD Lamb in the draft. Reason they didn't do it, or at least pick up a receiver in the first round when offensive line, is because this was already in the works. So I think that Pickens addition is going to help. The number one receiver for the Steelers last year. The numbers may have not borne that out directly, but I think it will help that Cowboys offense. On the way next, right here on the Sports Update, Bill Land joining us in studio. Oh, the memories. Oh, the lasting impact for the man who made Oh Mama so famous. Bill joins us right after the break.
Been in a crash? It's illegal for lawyers to contact you first. If yours did, it could ruin your case. Don't trust law firms that break the law. Choose Martinez & Associates, voted San Antonio's best law firm 3 years in a row. After you've been in a crash, go with the law firm you can trust. Call Martinez & Associates. With us, it's personal.
Call 210-337-1111. That's 210-337-1111.
You're gonna see me shine, 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 shine. Walking on beams of light, 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 light.
Welcome back to the Sports Update, brought to you by Martinez & Associates, and joining us, the man, the myth, the legend, Bill Land. Thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it, Bill.
Thank you. I'm more myth than legend. Okay?
No, not
legend in my own mind.
No. Legend as far as greater San Antonio and around the rest of the NBA and sports as well. Bill, it's great to see you. Take us through how you are. How's everything going?
I'm doing well. Those that may not be aware, was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, blood cancer, back in October of 23. Went through treatments and ended up having a stem cell transplant actually just about a year ago today. And it has brought me into remission. With multiple myeloma, it's not curable, but I'm evidence it's very treatable. And I'm on what they call maintenance therapy now, where I'm on a low-dose chemo pill for 3 weeks and then off for a week, and I continue with that cycle. And I have blood tests every month. And so far, so good. A little bit of anemia, which zaps my energy a little bit, but gives me an excuse when I'm on the golf course and I fade on 16, 17, and 18. So overall, I'm very fortunate. I'm doing very well.
Well, you look great. And we just went through our first season without Bill Land as the soundtrack of the season, the TV soundtrack of the season for the first time since 2008. Although, when I first saw that, Bill, because the Spurs were very kind to release a press release when you announced your retirement heading into last season, I thought to myself, 2008, Bill's been doing this for longer since 2008. Well, you've been filling in since 1990, but 2008 is when you officially became the lead guy for the Spurs. How tough was it this past year? Or, on the other end, was it a chance to actually watch the Spurs and not have to work night in and night out?
Yeah, well, just to update you on the history of as far as my position, yeah, I filled in going back to Dave Barnett, Joel Myers, several others, worked with a slew of guys, and then became the primary announcer. 21 seasons is what I had at that term. In the beginning, I was sharing it with Dick Stockton, and then after like a couple of years, they made me the guy, if you will. And I'm excited for Jacob, who has taken over.
Yeah.
I think he's done a great job. For me to watch this year, it was stress-free, I guess, because I didn't have to worry about what I was going to say or anything else. And when the team is struggling, you always want to try to take the positive side, everything else. And I was free to yell exactly what I thought at the screen and not have to be worried about reprimanded. And that included my feeling about the officiating. So from that standpoint, it was great. I would miss it at certain points, exciting games and that type of thing. But over the years, it was not a job. It was really just absolute passion of mine. But the last year or two, the preparation became work. And that's when I thought, even before I was diagnosed with cancer, that the last season might be my last season, because I thought, I don't want to do this if it becomes a job. And there's so much information out there. That's part of it, that like you'd prepare for hours, and then we'd have a dinner before the game with the crew, and somebody would say, hey, did you catch that podcast that had Jason Tatum on it? We're going to be playing the Celtics maybe in 3 nights. And I go, no. Oh, well, he said this. I'm going, golly, why did I not catch that? Because you always feel, if you're in this position, that you are never prepared enough. So kind of a long answer to that. But to sit back and enjoy that. The thing I really missed is the camaraderie with the crew, with Mike Kikarillo and Daniel Ashcraft, and of course, Sean and Dan Weiss and camera guys, everybody that was truly a family, and especially the group that traveled with the Spurs. That I really missed that, but we're still friends and still get together. So it's just a matter of moving on.
Awesome.
Bill, you mentioned watching the game at home, feeling comfortable. How many Omamas were there during the game?
Oh, occasionally my wife would look at me like, all right, enough. Shut up. Watch the game. We don't need to hear that. But I had no problem hooping and hollering, particularly when they'd finally lock it up, or when they would falter down the stretch or all this. It's just like, come on. What do you still hit? Guys have missed 7 threes in a row. Try driving to the basket occasionally, right? Just like any other fan.
Maybe we could get something set up like the Manning cast.
Yeah, the Bill Landcast. That'd be
careful what you ask for.
I know, right?
Right.
So we were talking about during commercial break about how, even though Bill is originally from DeKalb, Illinois, San Antonio's become home. And so for folks might have assumed this, but just in case you didn't know or hadn't assumed, Bill very much still a San Antonian, which is part of the Spurs culture. Like folks who have played such an integral part in this organization, whether it's player, executive, play-by-play media man, still around, sticking around San Antonio.
Yeah, it's, I love the city. I love the culture of it. I love the people. It's a laid-back, kind of big, small town.
Yeah.
Everyone is so accepting of everyone else, is always the impression I've gotten. And the Spurs being the franchise in town, there's no NFL or Major League Baseball. They obviously have a passionate fan base that is just over the top and appreciative of the players. And I think I know I was in Dallas when I worked for Fox Sports for the first few years that I was doing the Spurs games. And I had corporate housing down here, but I was from the get-go, I was like, I want to live here. I enjoyed Dallas, but nothing like San Antonio. And we moved here permanently 15 years ago. And I wish it had been 25 years ago, to be honest. It's a great setting. And I tell people that quit moving here. We like it just the way it is, right? It's growing so much, everything else. It's like, if people want to make fun of San Antonio, go right ahead. They don't know what we got.
Yeah.
When you look at the Spurs, remember the days when people would call the Spurs boring?
Yeah.
Well, when you just look at news and headlines, nothing boring about what's going on. Wemby and De'Aaron Fox getting positive injury updates a couple of weeks ago. Stephon Castle won Rookie of the Year. We now know they're going to have the 2nd and 14th picks in the lottery. Busy time. But I think all of it right now falls under the umbrella of Greg Popovich stepping aside, and one of the best coaches not only in basketball but in all of sports, period, no longer being the head coach, though he will remain with the organization as a president. Bill, I know you had many a memory, many an interaction with Pop. Just want to get your thoughts.
Pop, I use the word complicated. He's a complicated guy. He's got so much going on, and he's such a private person that people don't really get to. I don't feel that 21 years of being around her, that I really got to know Pop, because he's very close with his friends and this and that, and that's not like he didn't treat me well. He was fantastic, but I think he always likes to keep people off balance.
Yes.
And he thinks that, and I would agree with him, that you achieve more that way. You don't ever get too comfortable, whether it's a player, broadcaster, whatever. He told me one night years ago, I've been doing the games maybe 5 or 6 years. We're doing a pregame interview in Indianapolis before they play the Pacers. And we're standing in this little crowded hallway right outside the locker room. We're taping it. And I'm taking it out of a break and throwing it to a break. Well, as you guys know, you're professionals. You establish where you are, who you're with, right?
Right.
Welcome back to Indianapolis. Spurs and Pacers coming up tonight. Bill Land along with head coach Greg Popovich. Pop, what about the Pacers? Blah, blah, blah. We do the interview. He's fine. We get done. I throw it to a break, all that. And he goes, hey, I have a question for you. I said, yeah, what's that? He goes, why did you introduce me? And it's Greg Popovich. And I went, well, what do you mean? I said, I kind of told him what I just said to you guys. You know, that's kind of like coming out of a commercial. And he goes, well, don't you think anybody that's watching this knows who I am? He goes, and knows I'm Pop. I'm not Greg Popovich. And I went, good point. You know, that may not sound journalistic the way they do it.
Right.
But I went, you're right.
Right.
So from then on, I never referred to him as anything as Pop. And it didn't need an introduction, you know, of who I am. But that's just kind of like, he comes out of left field sometimes with some things. The other thing is, I was watching just yesterday a replay of the 2014 Spurs where they all sat down, the big three and Pop, right after they won the championship. And it's just gold, the video.
Yep.
And their interaction and everything else. And I would say the biggest key to him, in my opinion, being successful is he truly cares about his players as people. And he gets to know them, and he wants his team to get to know each other. And if that is established, the trust is established to where you're on the floor. But it's a much bigger picture. Basketball just happens to be the job in their case. And I would hear him many times say on the road, and people would say, well, what's the key to the success? You know, what was it? They had the 50-win season, was it 18 years in a row, which that'll never be matched.
Nope.
And he would say, well, my opinion, for the Spurs, it's synergy. Ownership, management, coaching, players, front office, we're all on the same page, we're all headed in the same direction, and we all let everybody do their job. And that sounds simple, but that doesn't happen many places.
Right. It's easy to talk about. Not many organizations, even outside of sports, fulfill that mission. And I think that's to your point. It's exactly what Pop was able to do.
Yeah, for so many years, I believe no one in professional sports been so long with an organization. So
longest tenured NBA head coach in history. He beat Jerry Sloan's record. So yeah, just
I thought I might outlast him. Didn't happen. Everything, but that's just briefly. That's kind of the other thing, that when we would travel, everybody knew the drill. It never changed. All the years I was there, and our producer Daniel Ashcraft and director Mike Hector have been around forever with the team. We're like, we would see other people in other teams and broadcast groups, and they'd be talking about, yeah, this coach does this. Boy, it's wholly different from the previous guy, and this and that. And we just go, same thing with us. I mean, and that consistency is a big part of the reason for their success. Right. Everybody knows what's happening.
You know, I recently heard Sean Elliott, as we transition here a little bit, say that he thought that had the Spurs not won the rights to pick Wemby a couple years ago in the lottery, he thinks maybe that's Pop's last season. Pop does not return. That was Sean's opinion on a recent podcast that I heard. So it speaks to now the forward trajectory of the Spurs, obviously with Pop stepping away from head coaching duties, Mitch Johnson, now the man. And Mitch, Bill, now gets a team that's got Wemby, Fox, in Stephon Castle. They've got 2 consecutive Rookie of the Year winners. They got a supporting cast that includes Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan, Keldon Johnson. We'll see what happens with Chris Paul. But they now have also the number 2 and the number 14 picks in the draft. And obviously there's discussion about, well, what should they do with those picks, including should they even keep those picks and take players. But to the bigger point, Bill, this is an exciting time in Spurs history because for so long, we were used to, we know what the Spurs are going to be, and in the best possible way. They were championship contenders year in and year out for 2+ decades. We knew that. You could pencil it in. Minimum 55 wins, minimum a second-round trip to the playoffs, except for that, that 2008 to 2010 time frame. You knew what you were going to get. Now we don't know what we're going to get, but there's reason to be very optimistic when you include the cast of characters that I just kind of talked about.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. It's exciting because they have so many options. And I just love to be a fly on the wall with Wright and R.C. Buford and the whole staff. I mean, people sometimes forget that, I don't want to say behind the scenes, but they're scouts. Dave Telep, who handles their personnel, he knows every player in the NBA, college, so if you are thinking about, and I do think they'll make some kind of moves, who knows how big or small, but they take the input of all of those people. And then as we were talking before we came on the air, the contract situation, that how do you juggle this and that? You don't want to go over to the luxury level, the second apron thing, which I have no understanding of. But they have options here where some teams are just kind of locked in financially to where they can't really make many moves. They don't have draft picks. What are they going to do? Here, the Spurs have stored all these draft picks. So it's just going to be exciting to follow and see which option they take.
Yeah, all these years of, hey, why did they make this move a couple years ago? And here they are. Here are the reasons why they've made these moves. And so talking about excitement going forward, the options, as you mentioned, unmatched with anybody else. Every year, it's always what's going to happen next. And now just a slew of different possibilities for the Spurs.
And positive.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I don't think, I would say it's going to be hard to screw it up because they have extremely qualified people in charge. They know what's going, and again, they're all on the same page. So it's really going to be fun to see what happens.
What was it like, and what's it been like for you, Bill, to be front and center for the transition? So, such a huge part you were of bringing the big three to the rest of us. And then you also got to usher in, from a broadcasting perspective, the Victor Wembanyama era. What was that like for you? Sitting there watching game by game what he was doing, and I'm sure it registered as you're working. It registered, I'm seeing something that I have not seen before, and it's only going to get better.
That's exactly what I would tell visiting broadcasters. They come in and they go, you may have seen something, but you're going to see something tonight from Victor Wembanyama you haven't seen before. I'm just going to tell you. At some point in the game, because they sit just right down from somebody lean back and go, maybe it was an unbelievable block. He somehow stretched underneath the basket and spins it up over and in. It was fun. The other part of that is that I'm so glad, even though it was somewhat torture as they had these losing seasons, but it made me so much more appreciative of the great years, because even though I'd tell myself, and the crew would, hey, don't take this for granted. Because like you said, we knew every year, they're going to contend for the championship. It's not just make the playoffs. And then it's like, and I would have other broadcasters and say at certain points during that great run, how lucky you are. Their team is horrible, have been in the playoffs in 3 years or this or that. And I'm just going, yeah, it's right. Well, then when we got to experience the rebuild, it did make me more appreciative of the job itself and how lucky I was to just be a part of that whole business.
That's awesome. Awesome.
And just to add on top of that, how lucky we've been since really David Robinson has been a part of the organization and all the way. And I feel the same too. I appreciate the years prior to that. I was in young when David Robinson came to the Spurs, and that's really when I started paying more attention. And then going through those years, knowing that we had such great teams and just didn't have that missing piece until Tim Duncan came around. And then, boy, did everything just change for the franchise.
Now, Bill, you've been so integral to helping shape the memories that San Antonians have of the Spurs. You calling the action, bringing it to us, as I mentioned earlier. We hear your voice when we see Manu or when we see Tony and Tim, and we think of those teams. For you, I imagine if I ask you favorite moment or two, it's impossible for you to whittle them down over your legendary career. But for the sake of asking, are there things that do stick out, takeaways that when you sit down and look back at your career and your time specifically with the Spurs, anything jump out at you more so than others?
Well, I think one thing, it's not necessarily a moment, but when I started doing the games, it was one of Sean's first years. And I was lucky enough to work with, the first year I was doing the games, the color analyst job was split between Sean, Steve Kerr, and Lance Blanks. And they all had a different style. They all brought different things to the table. But particularly Sean, as the years would go on, and it took me maybe 3 or 4 years to just finally get it. We'd be watching games. Spurs are off to a slow start. Maybe they're playing the Knicks, and the Knicks aren't any good at that point. And Sean would be going, these Spurs are down 15. It's the second quarter, and it looks like their head's not in it. Maybe they're coming off a back-to-back or something, whatever. And Sean would just go, matter of time, Bill. Matter of time. And he said, they got this. He'd say it on the air. And I'm sitting there going, are you watching the same game I am? And sure enough, they keep plugging away. Pop gives them a blistering timeout at some point. And all of a sudden, fourth quarter, here they go. It comes a tight game. Spurs get up like 4 or 5 with 2 minutes to go. Sean goes, as I said, it's done. And Tony, Manu, Tim, execute to a T. The other teams makes a turnover, does this or that. And it became, because Sean was a part of that and that confidence that group had, that they were never thinking, oh, we're not going to win tonight. It was always, of course, we'll get it. And it wasn't cockiness. It was just a confidence that they'd put the work in and they knew what they were going to do. And over the years, I became the same way. I wouldn't maybe express it on the air, but you could just see it happen.
Yeah.
And in the reverse, in these last few years, you could see where Spurs' young team falters down the stretch when they got like a 5-point lead, and whether you're playing Denver or somebody else, they execute like that. And you can see that's the way it was. The only other individual memory that I just always just grin about is when they were in the finals, I would go on the radio with Bill Schoening because television locally was not allowed. Yes. And I just offer my 2 bits in and out of breaks and everything else and enjoy Bill. But in 2014, when they wrapped it up against Miami, Game 5, and you guys, I'm sure, remember, it's one of those many moments during the game where you think the roof is going to be lifted. And Patty Mills hit a particular 3 at one point, and I get chills just thinking about it. And I was just, and because I wasn't doing the play-by-play, Bill's going crazy. I'm just looking at the crowd, taking the whole thing in and just going, wow, what an accomplishment. What a moment, for them to get back and then play Miami after those excruciating games, 6 and 7 in the 2013 finals. So that's always a moment that I think of, and just great respect for that team.
Bill, if I can share this as well, I know exactly what moment you're thinking of because I think I had the exact same goosebumps.
Yeah.
Game 5, 2014, I can remember vividly, Patty hits the 2 threes, and then Kawhi block over to Manu, hits the 3. Spoelstra's got to call the time because now the lead's at 21.
Right.
And I don't know if I've ever heard the then AT&T Center any louder than I did at that particular moment. Now, I wasn't in the arena during the 05. I was in the arena, not working though.
Yeah.
In game 03, the clinching game against the Nets. I did not make any of the finals in 99 or 03 or 05. But as far as 14, and I had attended games in 13, that was the loudest I'd ever heard that building, was that run in that third quarter where because people forget that Game 5 against the Heat, Miami went up by 20 in the early going.
Right.
And then the Spurs plodded away. They came back and the famous Manu dunk with the left hand over Bosch. Before you know it, there's the run. And from that point on, Miami never threatened, even though there was still plenty of, as Pop would always say, there's forever to go still. We still have forever to go. Miami never truly threatened.
Yeah.
But I remember that game as well. Vivid memories of that game.
Well, and for me, going back to 2013 in Miami, our broadcast position on radio, Bill and I were right at the top of the first level, literally next to an aisle. And in Game 6, when the Spurs are up, what was it, 5 with
28 seconds to go.
Stop it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Fans are running out of the arena.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Running out. And I'm just sitting there going, I actually want to stick my leg out and trip a few of them. But it was like, stick around and watch this. And then for them to lose. And then Game 7 was so winnable too. People forget about that, right?
Right.
But the crowd then going crazy. That to reverse it the next year and to clinch it and win it in San Antonio, it was just an absolute moment I'll never forget.
See what Bill's doing to me? See what Bill's doing to me? So Game 6, 2013, Bill, when those fans are in Miami are leaving the arena, the American Airlines, they're walking past me because I'm outside doing a live shot for the nightly news. Because you couldn't do a live shot inside the arena during the game. So we're outside and there's people coming past. And I'm thinking, wow, the Spurs really do have this in hand, only to find out in 5 minutes of real time later, whatever those 28 seconds took, that we're headed to overtime. And then, to your point, I don't think I've ever seen a locker room as dejected as I have after Game 6 in 2013.
Yeah, they were getting ready to bring out the trophy.
The trophy was, boy, I could sit here and chat with you for hours. We appreciate the time. Thank you so much, Bill. All the best. Thank you for these last several minutes. And of course, always have a home. Whenever you'd like to come back, please. Always an open invitation. No. Always an open invitation. The great Bill Lands, the man who helped shape what we know, what we took in from those legendary Spurs runs, and then, as mentioned, at the passing of the torch to the era now in the Victor Wembanyama era as well. Bill Land, the man, the myth, the legend. Thanks again for the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
The sports update presented by Martinez Associates continues. Baseball talk. Astros Rangers going at each other this weekend. Touch on that after the break.
Been in a crash? It's illegal for lawyers to contact you first. If yours did, it could ruin your case. Don't trust law firms that break the law. Choose Martinez and Associates, voted San Antonio's best law firm 3 years in a row. After you've been in a crash, go with the law firm you can trust. Call Martinez and Associates. With us, it's personal.
Call 210-337-1111. That's 210-337-1111.
Opportunity for SAFC. It's the back of the net. 1-0. 11:39 into the match. And guess who?
Oh, despite a 2-1 loss to Oakland Roots SC over the weekend, San Antonio FC still first place in the Western Conference in the USL. Up next for the good guys, at Charleston Battery this Saturday, that's the 17th, May 28th, they come back home for a match versus FC Tulsa. June 7th, at home against the Las Vegas Lights, and then on June 14th, they travel to face the Sacramento Republic FC. Of course, San Antonio FC under first-year head coach Carlos Llamosa, looking to bounce back from a rare non-playoff season and looking to get back to championship form, the 2022 United Soccer League champions. Of course, all of our coverage right here on the Sports Update is brought to you by Martinez and Associates. For us, it's personal is your slogan, and it is. Give them a call, 337-1111. Again, 337-1111. Their website, martinezlaw.com. Fantastic people, fantastic attorneys, the whole mix at Martinez and Associates. If in need, go by and give them a call or pay them a visit. How about we talk some baseball? Astros and Rangers getting together for the first time this season. They're going to meet out in Arlington. Now, both in right around the same spot, both hovering right around 500. A game above, I should say, heading into that series or heading into the last game of their previous series. And for Texas and Houston, chance to get some early bragging rights in what's been known forever as the Lone Star Series, the Silver Boot Series. Both Texas and Houston trailing Seattle, who was atop the AL West, and both kind of lumped in there with the Oakland A's, who were also sitting there right behind the Mariners.
Been in a crash? It's illegal for lawyers to contact you first. If yours did, it could ruin your case. Don't trust law firms that break the law. Choose Martinez and Associates, voted San Antonio's best law firm 3 years in a row. After you've been in a crash, go with the law firm you can trust. Call Martinez and Associates. With us, it's personal.
Call 210-337-1111. That's 210-337-1111.